I still remember the first time I stepped into Arman's home. The warmth of the place was not in the polished furniture or the grand walls, but in the presence of his mother, Sofia. She carried herself with a quiet grace, moving through the house like someone who had mastered the art of hiding her weariness behind a smile. To me, she was not just my friend's mother, she was a figure who made every guest feel welcome, offering tea with gentle insistence and stories spoken in a soft, melodic tone. Arman and I had been inseparable since childhood. We shared secrets, ambitions, and long afternoons playing in the streets until our laughter echoed into the evening. His home became my second home, a place where I could walk in without knocking. His family treated me as one of their own, but it was Sofia who stood out the most. Her kindness felt deliberate, as if she poured her energy into caring for others because there was little left reserved for herself. At first, I thought it was nothing more than the generosity of a motherly heart. She would ask if I had eaten, check on my studies, and occasionally slip me advice about life. But in rare moments when the house grew quiet and Arman was away, I noticed something different in her eyes, a loneliness almost hidden like a candle burning where no one was watching. One evening, as I was about to leave after helping Arman with homework, she called me back. Her voice was gentle, but carried an unusual weight. "I haven't done this for a long time," she said, holding out a small basket of groceries. "Please help me arrange these." It was such an ordinary request, yet the way she said it made me pause. I followed her into the kitchen, where she began unpacking vegetables with slow, deliberate movements. She spoke casually about how life used to feel fuller, how she once loved hosting dinners and taking care of a busy home, but things had changed. Her husband was often away, her days had grown repetitive, and silence had settled into the corners of the house. I listened, nodding politely, not realizing then how deeply those words would stay with me. The kitchen light reflected on her face, softening the lines of weariness and revealing the traces of beauty that time could not erase. For the first time, I sensed something more than motherly kindness, something fragile, something unspoken. That night, as I walked home, I felt unsettled. I told myself it was nothing, just a moment of shared conversation. Yet a strange thought lingered. Why had her voice trembled when she said she hadn't done this in a long time? And why did it feel as though she was speaking about something far beyond groceries? It was the beginning of a story I never intended to be part of, a story where loyalty, trust, and hidden emotions would collide in ways I could not yet imagine. In the weeks that followed, I found myself visiting Arman's home more frequently, though not always for him. The truth I barely admitted to myself was that his mother's presence drew me in with a quiet pull. There was something about Sofia's way of speaking, her calm voice layered with unspoken sorrow, that stirred an unfamiliar restlessness in me. It began innocently enough. She would ask me to help with small tasks, carrying bags, fixing a shelf, arranging books. Yet, in those moments, conversations unfolded that felt different from anything I shared with Arman or my own family. She asked me about my ambitions, about what I feared most, about the kind of life I dreamed of building. No adult had ever listened to me with such undivided attention, as if my words mattered. I started to see sides of her I had never noticed. When she laughed, it wasn't careless. It was careful, like someone who hadn't been given many reasons to laugh lately. When she spoke of her younger days, her eyes brightened, but only briefly, before dimming with the reminder of what was missing now. One afternoon, while Arman was out, she poured me tea and sat across the table. The silence between us stretched longer than usual, filled with an intensity one couldn't explain. Then she said softly, "Life has a way of making you invisible when no one is looking for you." Her words hung in the air like a confession. I searched for a response, but all I could manage was, "You're not invisible, Sofia. You're unforgettable." She smiled faintly, though her gaze lingered on me as though weighing the sincerity of my words. For a fleeting moment, I felt a connection pass between us, something delicate yet undeniable. The days carried on, but the bond grew stronger. She began sharing fragments of her personal struggles, how her husband's absence was more than physical, how silence in a marriage could be louder than arguments. I listened, not as a boy would to his friend's mother, but as someone trying to understand a woman who had long been misunderstood. Inside, I battled with myself. I knew these exchanges were dangerous, that they carried an intimacy which blurred the lines of respect and loyalty. Yet each conversation left me wanting more, as if I were stepping closer to a fire I had no business approaching. One evening, as I was about to leave, she placed her hand gently on mine and said, "Thank you for seeing me when no one else does." The warmth of her touch spread through me, confusing my heart and clouding my judgment. I walked home that night, unsettled, asking myself questions I didn't want to answer. Was this compassion, or was it becoming something far deeper? And if it was, what would it mean for my friendship with Arman? The bond between us was no longer ordinary. Something had shifted, and I sensed that the line we were both trying not to cross was drawing thinner with every passing day. It happened on a night that should have been like any other. Arman had gone out with friends, leaving me at his house after we had studied together. I lingered in the living room, flipping through a book, when Sofia appeared at the doorway. The quiet of the house felt different that evening, thicker, heavier, as though it carried secrets waiting to be spoken. She walked in slowly, holding a tray with 2 cups of tea. "You've stayed longer than usual," she said with a smile that carried both gratitude and hesitation. I nodded, unsure why my heart was beating faster than it should. We sat across from each other. For a while, neither of us spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable, yet it carried a weight neither of us wanted to acknowledge. Finally, she broke it. "Do you know what it feels like to live in a house full of people and still feel alone?" Her voice trembled ever so slightly. I swallowed hard. I can't say I do, but I can imagine it must be unbearable. Her eyes glistened in the dim light. Unbearable, that's the right word. You see, everyone assumes I'm strong, that I don't need anything. But even strong people long to be understood. She paused, her gaze fixed on me. "You understand me in ways no one else does." The words struck me with both warmth and dread. My mind screamed that this was wrong, yet my heart leaned closer. For the first time, I allowed myself to see her not as Arman's mother, but as a woman, lonely, vulnerable, and reaching out. Before I could respond, her hand brushed against mine on the table. It was a gentle touch, almost accidental, yet it sent a rush of emotion through me. I didn't pull away. Instead, I looked at her, and in her eyes I saw the same storm raging inside me. Conflict, fear, and a dangerous longing. "Sofia," I whispered, as though saying her name alone might break the moment. "Don't," she said quickly, shaking her head. "Don't say anything. Just let this be what it is." And then it happened. A closeness we had both been avoiding finally found us. It wasn't reckless or wild, but tender and fragile, like 2 people clinging to the comfort they had been denied for too long. The room grew smaller, the world outside disappeared, and for that brief moment, betrayal became inevitable. When it ended, silence filled the space once more, but now it was heavier, suffocating. Sofia turned away, her shoulders trembling. "What happened tonight," she whispered, "must never be spoken of. Not to Arman, not to anyone." I nodded, though my chest felt like it might collapse under the weight of guilt. I had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. That night, as I lay in bed, I realized everything had changed. My friendship, my conscience, my sense of self, they all felt stained by a choice I could neither justify nor forget. And yet, beneath the guilt, a dangerous truth lingered. Part of me did not regret that I and the days that followed. The air around me grew heavier, as if every step I took carried the shadow of what happened. I tried to behave as though nothing had changed, but inside I was a storm barely contained. Every time I saw Arman, his easy laughter cut through me like a blade. He was my best friend, the brother I had chosen for myself, and yet I carried a secret that would break him if ever revealed. Sofia, too, acted as though life was normal. She greeted me politely, served tea, and spoke in her usual gentle tone. But behind her composed expression, I could see the same burden reflected in her eyes. When our gazes met, we both looked away quickly, afraid that Arman or anyone else might notice. At first, I thought I could manage the silence, but it became unbearable. I started avoiding visits, inventing excuses when Arman asked me to come over. "I've been busy," I told him. "Exams are close, and I need to study." He accepted the explanations, but suspicion slowly crept into his voice. One evening, unable to hide his frustration, Arman confronted me. "You've changed," he said bluntly. "You avoid me, you avoid my house. Did something happen? Did my mother say something to you?" The question hit me like a slap. My heart raced, and for a moment I considered confessing everything just to relieve the crushing weight, but cowardice held my tongue. I forced a laugh, shook my head, and muttered, "No, nothing like that. I've just had a lot on my mind." He didn't look convinced, but he let it go. Still, the damage was done. The closeness we once shared began to fade, replaced by suspicion and distance. The betrayal, though unspoken, had already stolen the foundation of our friendship. Nights became the hardest. I would lie awake, replaying every moment, every choice, every word Sofia had whispered. Guilt gnawed at me, yet hidden beneath it was something even more dangerous, the memory of feeling needed, of being seen in a way I had never been before. That bittersweet pull kept me trapped, unable to fully regret, unable to fully move on. Eventually, I realized the truth. Betrayal is not always exposed with shouts and accusations. Sometimes it festers in silence, leaving relationships to wither until nothing remains but regret. I had betrayed my friend, his trust, and even myself, and though no one else knew, the weight of it ensured I could never be the same again. Looking back now, I understand the cruel lesson hidden in it all. Loneliness can make people reach for what they shouldn't, and weakness can make them accept it. But no moment of comfort is worth the cost of destroying bonds built on trust. Sometimes the deepest scars are not the ones others see, but the ones you carry alone. And mine was this, knowing that in a single moment I lost both a friend and the peace of my own heart.